Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us Jennifer Clair, who is an evolutionary astrologer who coaches people on how to reach their highest potential through their birth chart. She believes each person is the ultimate creator of his or her life, and having the knowledge of astrology as a self-growth tool can be incredibly empowering and give direction when one feels lost. She knows from personal experience how the chart can guide someone into greater peace and well-being. It's all about awareness of what's possible, and that's what she's teaching through her astrology practice. Welcome to the show, Jennifer. It's really great to have you here today.
Thank you, Jill. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I have two questions for you. One, how did you get started in this? And two, what the heck is an evolutionary astrologer?
Yes, wonderful question. So I got into this, I like to say, by a series of synchronicities and my lifelong love of spirituality. So lucky me, ever since I was 18, I had the privilege of having a mentor who taught me all about astrology and numerology and the law of attraction and how we create the lives we desire. So I didn't ever go through life feeling like I need to have the right job or I need to have the right husband. I went through life going, well, what is my heart guiding me into next? And so that led me to get my degree in equine science, because when I was 18, all I wanted to do was train horses. And then that led me to many, many other things, which we can talk about. But basically, astrology was sprinkled into my life from a young age. And then periodically throughout other jobs, I had people coming in offering me free readings, wanting to teach me about astrology. A manager at a store even gave me a book that sat on my shelf for 12 years that I never opened, because I just thought this is a wonderful self-growth tool, but I had never even considered it as a career. So evolutionary astrology in general is a type of modern psychological astrology that focuses on your evolution as a soul, not just a personality. So we know astrology is, we study the planets and we see how they affect human life below, right? But evolutionary astrology doesn't just look at the signs and the planets and say, this is what it all means. They ask, why do you have the chart you have in the first place? And that takes us into the idea of reincarnation and that this is not your soul's first time here. So it's very exciting to me, because I don't want to just think about life, from a personality standpoint. I want to know there is a meaning, there's lessons I'm here to learn and grow from. So that's why evolutionary astrology intrigues me. It's more about soul growth and not just predictive or astrology that doesn't focus on a psychological, spiritual perspective, which I know most astrology does. Anyway, so hope that answered some of it.
Sometimes people look at astrology and think, oh, they're predicting the future for me. Mm-hmm. When it really is more a tool that reminds us that this is the path we chose. It's kind of like the note we wrote to ourselves before we came here, so that we could remember, if we ever got around to getting our birth chart done, what we're here for.
Yes.
And how we're gifted, and the challenges that you face in your life are so weird how they show up in your birth chart. I didn't get mine until I was in my 60s, and I can look back through it and I'd
Oh my
see
gosh.
all the trauma spots that I've gone through in my life and going, oh, that's why that happened.
Mhm.
It's like, and there have been
Yeah.
some big ones, and they're like right there. The planets were like aligned in the way that said, you're probably going to experience this sort of trauma in your life. And yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a big deal. But it was all right there. And had I known beforehand, it would have been, super helpful.
Right. Because even if you can't change it, you have the awareness, which brings more acceptance, which brings more peace. And that's what I'd like to help people with, especially who come in with a bunch of anxiety and a bunch of worry. I did a lot of coursework in spiritual counseling because I want to help people that are really stuck. I want to help people who are struggling with personal issues in their own lives. I'm not as concerned about these big macro planetary movements and how they affect other places far away. I really like to just work with the individual on their personal needs in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings us to why astrology matters.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the biggest reason I think is it helps you get an understanding of who you are, and then it validates who you are, and then it allows you to have self-compassion. And then when you have that, your relationships get better because you have more compassion for someone else. You realize they have an astrology chart too, and it's very complex. And if you're willing to learn about the other person that deeply, you can have a much better relationship with them. One of the things I love to do is compatibility charts, because even people who they say are not compatible based on the zodiac signs, there is a lot of planes of connection within them. You just have to point them out and then show them how do they work around these other rough spots in the chart. Yep.
Yeah. And
Mm.
giving grace to yourself and others, but it really starts with giving grace to yourself,
Yeah.
because until you can let yourself be and not try to become something that you're not already,
Mhm.
and we get pushed into it as we're growing up, often parents or teachers or people that mean well. I mean, they're not trying to make your life miserable, but they'll tell you, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that. When really you need to look at what your heart says.
Mhm.
If you can, even with your children, and I know this firsthand too, with all five of my children, I I looked for what was sparking their interest, and I kind of like, I didn't push them in that direction, but I allowed them to pursue the things that they were really interested in, rather than saying, no, you have to do this,
Mhm.
because people don't excel in the you have to do this
Right.
category. And
Yeah.
having access to your 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 birth chart or
Mhm.
your note to yourself,
Yeah.
you know, helps you to
Exactly.
make better decisions, I think.
It really does. It's been so helpful for me over the years to look back at the notes people have created for me. And that's how I do my readings now is I create 7 to 10 pages of personalized notes for each individual reading.
Mhm.
And then I also record it. And so they have it to look back upon and they get to see the chart. So even if they don't understand everything, they at least know why I'm referencing what I am. I really want people to get an education from this, not just me telling them this is what's going to happen and this is what you need to do.
So how do people work with you? I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of coaching do you provide?
So I do one-on-one consulting and I do this over Zoom. So I could work with anyone, anywhere or across the globe. And I do also teach classes in my community and I do classes online. So now that I've got my Facebook page up, I'm hoping to do more Facebook Live interactions so people can come and ask questions. But yes, right now, online, Zoom, one-on-one, hour to 2 hours, depending on the type of reading.
And do you always do a birth chart for people? Can they request a birth chart? What is that?
Oh, yes, I always do the nail chart. I always look at that. But there are different types of readings. Say you've already had a natal chart reading with me, and now you want to look at what's upcoming in my life. We would do a transit chart reading. Anything that has a anyone that has a question about the future or a question about why are things happening the way they are in my life right now, we need to look at a separate chart. And so those readings require a little bit more research and they require a little bit more time. So those are the main ones I do, but I also do compatibility readings, as I mentioned earlier, and children's chart readings too.
It's really interesting. So tell me a little bit about this transit.
Yes.
What does
So
transit mean, and what kinds of things transit?
yeah. So a transit chart is just basically, you could pull a chart right now and it would show us what's happening in the sky. And when we take that and we compare it to your birth chart, so we're actually looking now at two wheels. It's kind of complicated to see, but that is a transit chart. It's showing how are the planets in the sky affecting you right now based on your natal planets. There's things like the Saturn return or the Uranus opposition, and these are alignments that planets make in everyone's life at certain ages. And they're big times that people want to be aware of so they know, okay, change is occurring. Let's figure out where it's occurring in my life based on the chart layout where this is happening, and how it's affecting me personally. Is it my relationship? Is it in my work? And then you have that heads up. So the transit charts are incredibly helpful because they just compare things to you exactly. They make it a lot more personal than just knowing, okay, Mercury is retrograde right now, but what do I do with that? Where is it affecting me?
And it depends on which house it's in now versus which house it was in when you were born.
Not so much that as just when you look at the transit chart, it's going to show Mercury aligning somewhere in the chart with yours, but I'm not even thinking that much into it. I'm just thinking in general, people say Mercury is retrograde, but I say, what else is going on in your chart? Like for me, Pluto is square my Pluto. That's hitting me a lot harder than Mercury retrograde is. So I would want to know about that more than just Mercury retrograde.
Okay, so be patient with me. So, because I'm trying to understand how this works. So you take your natal chart because you're looking at the two circles, and the natal chart, it's got your planets and they're in different houses and different degrees and all that stuff. And then the transit chart is a picture of today.
Yes.
And so you're looking at how all the planets, because they're going to be in different places than they were in your natal chart, but how they are in relationship. Aligned,
or making aspects. So there's certain angles the planets make, like say 90 degrees, that's a very strong angle that astrologers will look more closely at. So it's not, every movement is not going to mean something that you have to pay attention to. So this is why you study astrology. You learn which aspects are the most important, are the most relevant, and then you can kind of dive into that and not get overwhelmed with all the other small aspects or angles that don't matter as much for that person.
Okay. And so do some planets have more impact on people than others?
Yes.
And is that based on their birth chart?
Yes. So some planets have a much bigger impact. I personally, as an evolutionary astrologer, look at the slow moving planets, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, because those planets are going to be working on you for longer periods. So a Pluto transit might take 2-3 years that it's really going to be transforming you. And Mercury is going to go so fast, it flies around the whole chart, just like the sun in 88 days. So that's going to be gone in a flash, right? You don't have much time to react and to respond. So I focus on the slow moving planets because they are the ones that are showing you major change occurring that you have time to work with and evolve from.
Interesting. And so tell me about the ruling planet. Like we all have a ruling planet.
Yeah, so everyone has a ruling planet. That just has to do with your rising sign. Now, interestingly, if you don't know your exact birth time, you won't know your chart's ruling planet. So I don't focus heavily on it in my practice. There's so many other things you can look at. You can, look at the lunar nose, the life purpose, and Venus and Mercury. And so I don't put a lot of weight on the ruling planet. But for people who are interested in it, yes, you can look at things like me, I'm a Libra rising. I have Venus ruling my chart. So I might want to know, where is Venus in my chart? It's like, where is it placed, the planet? It's in the third house. That's communications. I value communications. I value teaching. So that planet Venus, whatever's your chart ruler, could have more weight in your life. But then there's so many other things you have to consider on top of that before you make a blanket statement. Like, I have Pluto square my sun. I think that's a lot bigger than just having Venus in the third house. So there's a lot to analyze in anyone's chart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, and I know you don't do the macro, but then there's these big cycle things that the planets do that are impacting generations of people.
Well, the reason I don't do that is because I love the saying you have, be the change you wish to see in the world. I really try and live that every day. I try and improve myself. I try and work with my clients individually and really study their chart. And so I'm laser focused on that kind of individualized work. And I finally decided that is okay. I can have a specialty. I don't have to worry that I don't know all the facts about all the planets moving right now. And so that's where I'm at with how I approach my work today.
They just, these larger cycles happen so slowly that it's like we're all involved in it, and we're all going to be involved in it through our whole lives. So it really doesn't matter that much. It's how our individual planetary alignments are happening that really impact us and those around us. So if we can work in kind of harmony with what's happening and make adjustments for what's coming, or what could potentially be coming, there's nothing that's written in stone. It's just all, these are the potentialities for any given time frames. Like, guess we're going through Mercury retrograde right now, and I'm struggling with tech. Like, two separate incidents of the same tech issues.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you, this one has been extra hard. This one has been extra hard. And usually I like Mercury retrograde because it gives me a chance to reflect, to revise, to improve things, to not feel like I have to be creating. But then there are times in your life when you are called to show up and create and travel, and you just have to roll with it. You just have to, give more time, have more patience, and not place blame on anyone or anything. And that can be hard, especially when you try so hard yourself and you're like, I did everything right. Why is this happening?
It's like that puzzle that just gets dumped in front of you, and you really don't have time to put it together.
Yeah.
But it's there. I'm gonna mess with it.
Yeah, but then it just comes back to taking personal responsibility for your life. If you know you did great, then you don't have to feel bad. Right?
Yeah, it's more they're more like, it's not a personal thing. It's just a piece of software that's supposed to work in a certain way, and it's not playing nice with other software that I have. And it's just, there's just something that needs to click into place, and it will be fine. It will go back to the way it was supposed to be, but it's the fiddling with it till I get it there. So
I know my best advice is to walk away as much as you can and then come back little by little. And then as soon as Mercury is out of retrograde, things should fall back into place.
Just look at it out of the corner of your eye. Don't let it know you're looking.
Yeah.
I also I have this other method that I just learned recently. I'll share it with you. I watched this gal who was on YouTube, and she had this dog barking in the background. The dog was just like, that neighbor dog that just barks incessantly, and you're like, I'm gonna go crazy. Okay, so this dog is barking like crazy. And she's like, in 30 seconds, this dog is gonna be silent. I'm thinking, yeah, right. Well, I knew that it had to work because otherwise she wouldn't be making the video. But So she's like, I'm just imagining, I'm feeling it in my whole body, how nice the peace is is
Mhm.
with the dog being silent. I'm envisioning how much fun he is having playing quietly with whatever toy he's got and or sleeping. And he's being quiet, he's at peace. And as she's talking, the dog is not barking.
Wow.
So I decided to try this out on my vacuum cleaner. It wasn't working for me. The beater bar wasn't working. So I'm like rolling the beater bar back and forth. And you had to pull all the junk out of it. And that gets wrapped around it. I thought it was just stuck. Flip it on, flip it off. Twist it around some more. Flip it on, flip it off. Plug it, unplug it, all the things you do with electronics.
Yeah.
Then I just stood up because you have to be on the ground to do vacuum cleaner work. A deep breath and just envisioned picking up the handle, turning it on, pushing the beater bar down, and it was going to work. And then I plugged it in, turned it on, pushed the beater bar down, and it did work.
Oh, that's a great story.
So
Hmm.
I'm reminding myself that I maybe just need to take some time and envision how good having all of these things playing together is going to feel
Yeah.
when they're playing together nicely.
No, that's a great
Give it one more
reminder.
try.
The end result that you want, get in that vibration.
Which really brings us back to astrology in that if you know these things are happening, you can practice, you can find the tools you need
Yeah.
and practice them because these are
Yeah.
all Mercury retrograde problems that I'm
Mhm.
experiencing in my life. And I
Yeah.
can recognize it's not me. It's just the way things are at the moment, and it's okay. It
Yeah.
will pass. It's not a forever thing. Nothing is forever with astrology because it's always moving.
That's what's wonderful. Yes, that's what's wonderful. And Mercury was in Virgo, and now it's still retrograding and it's back in Leo. But I was looking and thinking about this because it's Virgo is the sign of health, right? And we just entered Virgo, the sun season. And a lot of people at this time, kids are going back to school, they're trying to clean up, get organized, and get their diets maybe a little bit cleaner and healthier.
Mhm.
So it's a good time to focus on that. And yet it's also extremely challenging. So just because something's happening astrologically doesn't mean it's going to be easy
Mhm.
to work with the energy, but it does mean it is beneficial. So
You'll get good results. It's worth the
yes,
effort.
it's worth the effort. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I started a new eating regime.
Well, I'm dealing with a lot of personal health challenges right now. I just found out I have a tooth that needs to be removed that died. I had gotten COVID about a month back, and then my tooth started hurting, and so I'm going through a lot where I know I'm going to have to put some money into dental work, and that's never fun. Never fun.
Yeah. And having teeth pulled
Mm-mm.
it's
Yeah.
really hard.
But I always say everyone has something that they're dealing with. Everyone has some health challenge. And so it's the way you look at it. And for me, I've always been against the root canals because I got a few of them before and they were infected and I was very angry. I had to spend a lot of money, get implants. But now I'm learning you might not have a choice. You might have to get another root canal. And then down the road, maybe you could get an implant and do all the other things. But it's this lesson in acceptance right now. It's this lesson in forgiveness, things from the past. It's all coming up now. So I think if that happens to anyone listening, it's okay to do something you thought in the past was wrong. Or was not right for you. Maybe there's a lesson in forgiveness in this, in acceptance.
Acceptance is a big thing because you can't really change what's happened.
Mm-mm.
And to some extent you can't really change. I think of it in terms of like um planting and reaping. I
Mm-hmm.
live in the country, so we're big on gardening, and you never reap in the same season you sow, and you only reap the stuff that you've planted. It could be from weeds. I do have volunteer stuff, but it's mostly stuff that you've sown these seeds somewhere along the lines. It could be really far back in your past. It could be recently, but there's always consequences. Sometimes they're good consequences, sometimes with what we consider bad consequences. Then they really aren't bad. They're just consequences. They're the result of something that has happened before. And whether it doesn't even mean that you're personally responsible for it. It just means that things have happened and now this is the situation. And you can either it's your choice how you're going to look at the situation. You can either accept it and learn something from it and be grateful for something about it, or you can be really mad and miserable, and then other things are going to go wrong because
Right.
the more miserable you are, the worse you feel. And so your body starts
Yeah.
in on you to remind
Yeah.
you to.
I've experienced that stress can be a lot worse than your actual health challenge that
Yeah,
you're going through. So I
yeah,
have to always
just
remind myself that. You'd rather
we
just
all
have this
do.
procedure and be less stressed than not, and then worry about what is happening. So,
And sometimes, you hear you should do this. No, you shouldn't do that. Oh, it's good for you. No, it's bad for you. And sometimes you just have to sit with it and say, what do I feel is right? The right answer for me. And it doesn't have to be the right answer for anybody else. It just needs to be the right answer for you. And go with that. And if it's like having teeth pulled, then that's what you do.
yep. That's a very good reminder, Jill. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I need it.
My heart goes out to you because I've struggled with a lot of things in my life too. It's just like, and then you've got people that come along and remind you, well, you shouldn't have done that.
Oh,
So,
exactly.
that's real helpful because I did it. And at the time, it was the best choice that I had. So
Right.
now I'm going to have to do other things.
Right. Right.
It's
And,
just like,
just bringing this back to astrology, how we can have acceptance for those things we went through. Like, I'm sure I'm going to look back in a few years and go, yep, these were exactly the lessons you needed to experience. And now you're more spiritually evolved, because that's my personal goal, is just to become a better person. And we worry so much about these things that in the future are not going to seem that important, and we'll grow from them. So yes, your astrology chart can simply be a tool for you to look back upon and also know, I'm still going in the right direction. I might have had all these challenges, but look, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I've just met this amazing partner and have these wonderful children. And there's so much you can get from your chart that's validating. And that's what I try and do the most, is show people that.
so how do people get in touch with you if they want to
So they
get
can
a
go
natal chart
to
or any
my
other chart?
website. They can go to my website, jenniferclairastrology.com, or they can go to YouTube. I just started a Facebook channel. That's all of it is just Jennifer Clair Astrology. And I do also have something special for the listeners today. I wanted to offer my article, The Art of Self-Transformation. And so you can get that just by going to my website on the homepage, entering your email address. And then you'll also receive a newsletter with educational information if you want to learn more. And then secondly, just for listening to the podcast, if you're interested in a personalized reading, you will get $15 off using the code podcast on my services page.
All upper or lowercase?
The podcast is all caps.
I'm going to write that down so that thank you for that. That's very generous of you.
Yeah, and I
So
think,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think if people go to my website and they see the blogs, they'll kind of learn more about what I teach, what I believe in, and I'm trying to do more videos on YouTube so people can get free education, because I think that's always really helpful to understand an astrologer's energy and their teachings before you go forward. So that's my goal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that a lot. So what's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from this conversation today?
The most important thing is that you don't have to go through life lost, feeling confused or feeling powerless. You have a purpose, and astrology can show you how to find it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.